Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov Chess Channel and welcome back to the FIDE World Championship match between Nepomniachtchi and Liren. So far we have seen great 5 rounds. Jan is so far in the lead, has now 3 points against Liren's 2 points. And again today we had a decisive game, which is really crazy. So far in 6 rounds we'll see 4 decisive games, which is really incredible. I'm not sure whenever this happened in chess history that we see 4 winning games. So you see classical chess is still great. Classical chess is still dynamic, so in my opinion, so far, Nepomniachtchi and Liren played an epic World Chess Championship match in 2023. So let's see now what happened in the round 6. Liren played with the white pieces against Nepo and opened with the move d4. Nepo's response was knight to f6. After knight to f3, d5, we have now a huge opening surprise here by Ding. Ding goes into this positional London system, and many players have struggled, have battled against the London system, and basically there are many opportunities for black to go positional into the game, but it's quite unpleasant to handle this bishop's activity. So even if you go into some bishop trades, of course, many times then you're left with the slightly worse light square bishop against your opponent's light square bishop. So as I said, I had a tough time against the London system. I really never loved to play against it. Even if I won some games, still it was such a positional struggle, such a positional battle. So also in this game you can expect really clash of positional understanding. So in the game c5, which is of course the natural way to go, breaking here the position in the center of the board. e3, of course white wants to build this grip on dark squares. It's a natural idea. c3, d4, e3, going into structures like knight to d2, bishop to d3, or bishop to b5 are normal ideas, but the most important thing is that you control the very powerful e5 square. So in the game knight to c6, Nepo continues with normal development, knight from b to d2, and basically there are now 3 approaches of blacks here. You can play queen to b6, e6, bishop to g4 is also an idea, or maybe bishop to f5 to get the bishop out. I never liked this line, and this line Nepo played the move c takes d4, and that's, I think, a move that the London system player loves to play. Of course, nothing dramatically changes here. It's not a mistake in accuracy or blunder that Nepo is doing here, but c takes d4 releases simply the pressure in the center of the board, and that's exactly what white wants to get. After e takes d4, now you see we've simply fixed the structure with the move c3, and we have now a solid position. The bishop will get out, as we said, queen to e2, and then we'll occupy this beautiful e5 square. So this is everything is working here in a good way for white. In the game, Nepo is getting the bishop out. He wants also to have a great control of the e4 square, which really makes sense. Now c3 played by Liren, of course, preventing the move knight to b4. If that happens, then you could have problems around the square d3 and also around the square c2. e6, bishop to b5. You see, as I said in the beginning, it is simply a control of the e5 square. Now we're basically attacking every piece that could have could defend, of course, the e5 square. Now with the bishop to c6, Ding does, of course, this aggressive attack against the knight, which is controlling this very important square. So bishop to d6, again a move that doesn't bother, I think, a London system player. Will simply trade it off. After bishop to d6, queen to d6. Notice that in this scenario, white's light square bishop is a little bit better than black's light square bishop, because there are many pawns on light squares already, so it's not the optimal piece. And in the next couple of moves, I think we could expect, if the position allows it, maybe even some ideas of bishop to c6 and then occupying the e5 square. So one of the positional trades of pieces here, and you can probably sense it too, that white will probably pick up with the bishop the knight on c6 and will have a great access to the e5 square. So that's one of the methods of simply occupying the square and simply go around the square. If you occupy, of course, the e5 square, then you can have f4 support. Maybe you can launch even a flank attack in some line. So in my opinion, great positional understanding so far here by Ding Liren. So in the game kingside castling played by Ding, Nepo goes also kingside castling, rook to e1, again a further control of the e5 square. h6, liberating some important squares for the light square bishop, and now knight to e5. And the problem is now you cannot pick up here the knight immediately, because you get d takes e5. Okay, you can maybe get out with your queen, attack also the bishop, but now after something like e takes f6, queen to b5 will simply pick up this pawn on g7. Now we have to react, king to g7. This is of course nothing dramatic. Black is not going to lose the game because of this position, but I kind of don't like this naked king. The bishop will be only used in order to defend the king. Maybe this was one of the possible lines, but I simply don't like anymore Black's position. So here in the game, knight to e5, Nepo leaves the position like this, doesn't want to simply trade off the knight in the center of the board, reroutes now the knight maybe here on other squares. Maybe Nepo is also searching for opportunities, maybe for some counterplay here on the king side, because we have to say there are two pieces now on the king side. If you activate maybe a third piece, then you can have maybe great chances with an attack against the white king. So in the game, a4, and this move I really like by Ding. This move is showing here that basically Black will never have real counterplay on the queen side. So white is controlling here the king side with this aggressive knight on e5 with a centralized knight, and it's really hard to kick away this rank from this square. But now with the move a4, Ding prevents really any counterplay here on the queen side, because now after move a6 that the Nepo played bishop to f1, that Ding played, you can not play the move b5 because this square is controlled by the a4 pawn and by the bishop. So you would love to play maybe b5. Imagine a position where b5 would be a possibility, and then if you break and enter here maybe with the move b4, this will be a beautiful pawn minority attack here on the queen side. Now maybe with some rook activities here on the b and c file, Black would have really enormous pressure, and this would be the way to go. But with the move a4, Ding understood that Nepo could have some counterplay and prevented this idea with his beautiful positional play. Now comes again a new critical moment, a critical idea here by Nepo. Nepo played, in my opinion, an inaccuracy here with the move knight to d7, and it seems tempting again, but again you're doing the same thing that already the knight did here. The knight attacked the knight on e5. You had your chances maybe to trade off the knights. Now you're trying to trade it off again. The way here to go is, I think, to play the move a5. a5 is so important in this position. Now it seems strange, I know. You say, what dude, what you're talking about, look at this, we have some weaknesses here, but a5 is actually preventing the move a5 by white, and you see now how many problems this a5 move by Ding Liren recalls now Jan Nepomniachtchi in the continuation of the game. So a5 was a very important defensive move which Nepo didn't play. After move bishop to f1, Nepo went with knight to d7, and now after knight to d7, queen to d7, Ding paralyzes now the whole queen side here. This is really amazing stuff. So he's not allowing again this move b5 to happen, even if b5 happens in some good ways. Maybe you can play it, of course, but after 8x b6 en passant, you're left with an isolated a pawn. So again, with this beautiful prophylactic play, Ding Liren never allowed here Jan Nepomniachtchi to have any counterplay on the queen side. As I said, maybe a better way for Jan was simply to go with the move a5 himself, controlling the squares. Of course, you are leaving also some weaknesses, but the downside, I think, for white is here that white will never have access with one of these knights on b5. In order to make that happen, you have to get your knight on c3 or maybe here to a3, but it's a long run. You lose many time, you lose many tempi here in order just to reroute the knight to b5. So in my opinion, even if you do that, nothing spectacular, nothing is lost. So with the move a5, I think here Jan Nepomniachtchi could have really solved many positional problems. So after move bishop to f1, knight to d7. As we said, knight to d7, a5. From this point on, I think Nepo has now huge positional problems. So queen to c7, queen to f3, normal development, rook to c8. Nepo is trying now to do this minority attack on the queen side. He's trying maybe even to push the pawn on b6, but as I said, when that happens, 8x b6 is going to happen, and still Black is left then maybe with an isolated a pawn. Rook to a3, we have bishop to g6, knight to b3. Look at this, because you never played a5, now you cannot even play b6, and the knight is coming on a beautiful square c5. So here Ding is, I think, taking over on the queen side. He's taking over here also in the center of the board, and he still has chances even maybe to launch an attack on the king side, especially against the bishop, which is a little bit exposed here on g6. So in the game, knight to c6, hitting the pawn on a5, queen to g3 by Ding. He's saying, I'm satisfied with my setup. I will trade off the queens, maybe go with my knight on c5, go into maybe a pawn attack with the move b4, b5 is also an opportunity. So really great positional play here by Ding Liren. So Nepo goes out of the attack, plays now queen to e7, h4 by Ding. We have rook to e8, and now after move knight to c5. That Ding played, which is of course a beautiful attack against the pawn on b7. Now comes another critical moment here in the game. Here Nepo probably was unsatisfied with his position because he doesn't have any chances to break and enter here in this position. You see he's paralyzed on the queen side. The bishop is a huge problem. You have really an active bishop here, but look at this. This bishop is targeting into nothing, it's targeting into air, so you don't have any attacking chances with your bishop. So the knight is out, the rooks are paralyzed, so the only chance to maybe break the position is this move, the move e5 that Jan Nepomniachtchi played, but it's a mistake. This move is causing new headaches in black's position, because look at this after move e5. Here we have rook to b3 by Ding. Beautiful counter attack, but actually even a better idea is here even to go with the move b4, because if you play e4, then you face this idea f3, and you again will be left with a weak e4 pawn. If you push through, then we have an e3 pawn as a weakness. So in my opinion, nothing spectacular here for black. So as I said, after move b4, we would simply cement the position. Even if we play something like queen to d6, now we can play here knight to b7. Look at this, this pawn is weak, this pawn, we have a tension here on this diagonal, so you cannot even leave now the protection of the 7th rank. So instead of this move b4, which was one of the good choices, here Ding played also a beautiful idea, rook to b3, hitting simply the pawn on b7, but of course it leaves now this pawn unprotected. Knight to a5, here played by Jan Nepomniachtchi. Rook to e5 comes with a beautiful counterattack against the queen. You have to step back, and now a rook to a3 again is simply attacking the knight. So now comes this idea, knight to c4, and as I said also in the middle of the video, we will probably eventually trade off our light square bishop against our opponent's knight. It's one of the many great positional trades of pieces in the London system. It's really common trades of pieces in the London system, where now white is continuing the game with a better knight against the worse bishop here on g6. Although, as I said, this bishop has decent activities, but the bishop doesn't love this kind of activity where it's simply not attacking anything. So now you see the bishop is attacking this whole diagonal, but there's simply no pieces that the bishop is attacking. This knight, on the other hand, here centralized like this, is much more powerful now in this types of structures. So in the game d takes c4, we have now h5 played by Ding Liren, and now another mistake here by Nepo. He played now this bishop to c2 retreating move. It's of course not retreating because you're moving the bishop forward, but you're retreating from the attack of the h5 pawn, and this is now another mistake here in Nepo's game. Actually, what he should have played, and it's quite a spectacular line, he should have played simply here rook to e5. After d takes e5, queen to d8 is a beautiful counter-attack idea, because if you play, for instance, something like knight to b7, then you get this one, queen to d1, and then queen to h5. If you play here, for instance, h takes g6, then you are risking the perpetual check here. We'll simply play queen to h5, king to g1, and then queen to d1 leads into a forced checkmate sequence. So this is a tactic that Nepo missed after move h5. He played this retreating move to c2. In the game knight to b7, you see now the position is falling apart because of this tactical problems now in the game. This pawn is taken, this pawn is weak, this pawn is weak, the bishop is still, as I said, really not the optimal bishop here on the board. In the game, queen to b6 attacking the knight, and now a beautiful move here by Ding, knight to d6. Of course, you cannot pick up the knight on d6 because you get rook to d8, comes with a discovered attack against the queen, comes also with a check, and you lose decisive material. So in the game, rook to e5, queen to e5. So perfect position, I think, here for white. The knight centralized, the queen centralized, the rook on the active file. Weaknesses we have created enough, I think, in our opponent's position. a6, c4, bishop weak. So great play here by Ding Liren. So queen to b2. Ding, of course, has also some weaknesses now on b2, but now after move rook to a5, look at this. Knight to e8 is, for instance, one of the beautiful ideas where we can deliver a checkmate maybe on g7. So again, a powerful play here by Ding. So king to h7 played by Jan Nepomniachtchi, and now maybe Ding makes maybe his first little inaccuracy in the game. He played now the move rook to c5, and he's trying to, of course, get the rook into the game, and he's trying, of course, to attack maybe the pawns on the 7th rank, maybe even further trying some checkmate threats on g7. But the problem is now you're simply leaving your pawns unprotected. The better way was to go queen to e1. Still, you're protecting your pawn on c3. Still, the f7 is weak. Still, the c4 is weak. Still, the a6 pawn is weak. So in the next couple moves, you can then maybe play rook to c5, rook to c7. But it was really too rushed, I think, to just launch an attack immediately. Now, first of all, I think we should protect our pawn on c3. So, as I said, after rook to c5, Nepo had a great chance with maybe queen to c3, maybe knight to f7, bishop to d3, and then you play probably rook to c7, trying to deliver a checkmate. But now with queen to c1, maybe a check. Rook to e8 is one of the defensive ideas. Look at this. For instance, you pick up the rook, then again you risk some perpetual checks by the queen. So at least I think after you pick up here the pawn on c3, at least you would spice up the game somehow, because white should play really accurate moves here just in order to stay in the game, because these two passers could be also dangerous here on the a and c file. But what Nepo did is now the huge blunder here on c1. He played a check, didn't take out the pawn on c3. King to h2 was played now by Ding, but now f6. Here Ding goes on g3, and now the realistic chance is, of course, the attack on the 7th rank. So from this point on, I think the game is over here for Jan Nepomniachtchi. So a5, desperate try, and now Ding plays the correct choice, I think, knight to c4, because this is a good move. Even if something goes wrong, if even this game reaches now the end game stage, what I mean about is if you maybe even trade off all of these pieces, then of course with some extra pawns you should win the end game. So knight to c4 is the perfect move. There are of course other opportunities you can play. Of course also the rook to c7 attack, queen to f3 are opportunities attacking the rook. Many great ideas come to my mind, but of course here knight to c4 was the best move here by Ding Liren. So a4, knight to e3, again with the same idea, getting also the rook on the 7th rank, the knight maybe here on g4, knight to f6 are also opportunities. So great attacking chances, but only for white. So in the game, bishop to b1 played by Jan Nepomniachtchi, rook to c7, rook to g8, knight to d5, knight to f6 is now the serious threat, where you could have this fork because you cannot take because of these activities by the rook on the 7th rank. King to h8, rook to a7, attacking now the pawn. a3, we have knight to e7 by Ding Liren, attacking now the rook, and now here rook to f8 played by Jan Nepomniachtchi. And again, there are many things that you can do. You can play, of course, here knight to g6 is one of the great methods, because after something like king to g8, queen to c7 is of course winning the game, so you would be forced to play something like, I don't know, bishop to g6, h takes g6. Still, it's of course a completely winning game. Here we have two connected passers, but actually the best choice here is here to play the move rook to b7. Rook to b7 would be a brilliant move, because if you play something like queen to g5, we'll trade off the queens and pick up the bishop. If you start, for instance, to push the pawn here, then we have this one, rook to b8 is simply winning the game. After trades of rooks, you're getting checkmated. So again, game over here for for Jan Nepomniachtchi. Ding Liren played now the move d5, which is also perfectly fine because still he can play on this ideas, as we said, rook to b7 and maybe going with rook to b8, knight to g6 is always a plan. In the game here, Nepo tried a2, try to spice up the game, but now we can actually have access to the c7 square, and there should be again a game over here for black. After a2, Ding continued here with queen to c7, of course, trying the checkmate threat on g7, king to h7, now knight to g6. King to h7 was the only move to survive because, of course, if you don't do that, then knight to g6 comes with the check. You have to react, and then you get checkmated. So first of all, Nepo goes out of this potential knight to g6 move. Knight to g6 comes anyway. We have a rook to g8, and now pause the video and try to see now the winning game, the winning move here for Ding Liren. It was an incredible move, and after that move Jan Nepomniachtchi resigned. So just for fun, try to solve now this mini puzzle. Okay, the winning move is here the brilliant queen to f7, because for instance you try something like queen to g5. The problem is now the beautiful queen sacrifice possibility. You pick up here the piece, and now after rook to a8, king to f7 with rook to f8, you're getting checkmated. Look at this, the pawn on d5 is controlling the square e6. We have a beautiful checkmate pattern here. So as I said, after move queen to f7, Nepo resigns. So Ding is back again. He was twice behind Nepo so far in this World Chess Championship match, but eventually managed to draw both of these matches so far. He is a great player with the white pieces, we have to say it. Both players you have problems how to defend with the position with the black pieces, and the cool part about this World Championship match, I think, is that we have a certain flexibility. Many openings we have seen. If you remember, for instance, the World Chess Championship match between Fabiano Caruana and Carlsen, where Carlsen played many times the same opening, the same Sicilian in the World Championship match. So far we have seen here c4, d4, e4, London system, Rui Lopez, Queen's Gambit decline. So we have seen really a certain flexibility by both of them. So both of them are well prepared. In my opinion, this will be an epic World Chess Championship match between Jan Nepomniachtchi and Ding Liren. So the result is now 3-3. We have now a day off. Then afterwards we'll see the round 7, in which again Nepo will have the white pieces. So in my opinion, it will be again a brutal game. So okay, if you want to see more games from this chess event, check out our coverage so far of the World Chess Championship match. Here's the link of our playlist, and if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.